It is August 6, 2014 on Wednesday. It's 8:12 p.m. Pacific Time. And up next, more on the Ebola virus. Dave Hodges, and this is the Common Sense Show. Monsanto, or Monsatan, as many call them, has partnered with the Department of Defense to use a proxy third-party company to develop a vaccine against Ebola. The seed money began at $1.5 million. The value of the deal could grow to an estimated $86 million. The company's name is Tecmira Pharmaceuticals Corporation, a leading developer of RNA interference therapeutics. As breaking and shocking of a news story as this has the potential to be, the real story is that this is not the most important part of the Ebola threat which has invaded the U.S. The three most evil corporations, in no particular order, are Standard Oil, Goldman Sachs, and Monsanto. So, has this announcement raised eyebrows? Of course it has. Everything Monsanto touches has a distinct trail of greed, corruption, and influence peddling. On last night's broadcast of the Common Sense Show, I hosted Joe Hagman of the Hagman and Hagman Report. Joe expressed the view that the real threat to our citizens may not come from the Ebola itself, but it likely would come from the resulting vaccine. In a mid-afternoon phone conversation I had with Joe Hagman, prior to the show, I asked him if he had heard about Monsanto being given control of the development of an Ebola vaccine with DoD seed money. Subsequently, the news director of my show, Annie DeRiso, discovered that this was the case and the information was less than 48 hours old. Will the threat be in the form of Ebola, or will it come from the vaccine? Late last week I reported the following. A desperate search is on to find the hundreds of passengers who flew on the same jets as Sawyer. In other words, patient zero. A total of 59 passengers and crew are estimated to have come into contact with Sawyer. An effort is being made to track each individual down. There is an inherent problem with this track down. Presumably, some of the passengers connected to other flights, which known to be the case. Let's just say, for the sake of an argument, that only 20 people, a low estimate given the nature of the airports that Sawyer was traveling in, were connecting to other flights. The spread of the virus would quickly expand beyond any possibility of containment, because in less than a half a day, nearly 500,000 people would be potentially exposed. Within a matter of a couple of hours, Sawyer's infected fellow travelers would each have made contact with 200 other passengers and crew. Hours later, these flights would land and these people would go home to the friends, families, and co-workers across several continents. I believe that as many have reported in the past 48 hours, Ebola has broken any possibility of containment and has now been unleashed on every continent. Many of my medical sources are telling me that modern medicine really does not know what the potential is for Ebola to spread from a significant regionalized threat to a threat to become a global pandemic, which would be as bad or worse than the 1918 Spanish flu. On last night's show, Joe Hagman expressed the opinion that perhaps the threat would be from the Ebola, but from the virus. However, I am aware of 100,000 West Africans that are coming into this country, primarily acting as drug couriers. These men come from the 7-country region in West Africa, where the Ebola outbreak is raging out of control. And of course, as I have stated many times, this had led even prominent physicians, Dr. Jane Orient, to state that it is not a matter of if, but when Ebola is spread throughout America and the world. The UN has been preparing to assist with health crisis. Since the knowledge that UN military vehicles were being transported around the U.S. back in May, I have developed two sources from the DEA. One source is newly retired and maintains frequent contact with me. The other source has gone dark for the past 10 days, and the covert communication method we were to use is not working. At the moment that I was signing off my show last night, the retired DEA agent called me. He told me that the friendly debate over Ebola that I was having with Joe Hagman was a meaningless conversation. He said that one of the five strains of Ebola has been weaponized and was developed at Fort Detrick. He further stated that this strain of Ebola was released 8 months ago. 8 months ago. What he described is the classic Hegelian dialectic in which the problem is created and a desired solution is enacted. Problem-solution. Joe Hagman may have been correct in that the goal is to develop a vaccine. That is where the money is, and that is where the future power over the people lies. History speaks. Will America listen? During the H1N1 scare of a few years ago, we know that law enforcement officials in several states practiced a DUI roadblock kind of scenario in several states, in which they were equipped with mock vaccine testing equipment to tell whether someone or not had been given the new vaccine against the virus. The roadblock consisted of a large van for processing, a couple of buses, and chase cars on the flanks to run down people who tried to avoid the checkpoint. According to my well-placed sources in Colorado, this was rehearsed over and over. These law enforcement officers were told that their families would be collected by DHS and protected in isolation against the spread of the pathogen and any resulting rioting. Former and highly decorated state trooper from Kansas, Greg Evenson, stated on my show that these families would not be held for safekeeping. They were to be held hostage to force the law enforcement officials to do the bidding of the powers that be. The bidding that Greg Evenson was speaking of was the fact that if you did not demonstrate that you had the vaccine, you would be given two choices: immediate injection with the vaccine, or your car would be impounded and you would be sent to a medical FEMA camp by one of the buses present at the scene. At one point during the H1N1 scare, I thought the public's reaction to forced vaccinations, which began in many hospitals, forced the government to abandon its plans to launch the program. In the present time, I think that this was a beta test designed to put the mechanisms into place and to condition the public that this will someday happen. I am presently traveling, and I contacted two of my sources in law enforcement to ask them if they had done any drills with regard to the outbreak of Ebola. I was told that they had not. However, one source stated that the recent DHS memo reminded the officials that they were to remain current on their containment and interdiction procedures with regard to any virulent outbreaks. The sum total of what we are looking is this. The short-term goal, according to my DEA source, is to make money off of the vaccine. The long-term goal is to begin to lock down the country by using fear and the natural course of Ebola spreading. He stated that once people see communities being exposed, we will accept any restriction, including mandatory vaccinations. I told him that no vaccine could be developed, tested, and effectively used in a short time. He responded by stating that the public is too stupid to know the difference. He has a point, because that was what the government had done with the vaccine related to the H1N1 scare. I have real concerns over the safety of such a vaccine. First, there is the Monsanto reputation issue, in which they repeatedly proven that they cannot be trusted. Second, producing a vaccine in such a short amount of time is fraught with problems. Third, the use of the infamous adjuvants will no doubt resurface. During the H1N1 scare, it is what was discovered that the vaccine was using MF59 and squalene in the vaccine to increase the volume of an existing batch. The adjuvants were linked to serious central nervous system damage. There's another concern that I have as well. In December of 2012, I reported that I had a contact from FEMA who retired and bugged out to a communal safe haven with like-minded officials from DHS and FEMA. His primary fear was the spread of a pandemic, which he expected to happen within 2 years. His expertise was in counter-bioterrorism. You can read these stories at this link, and there's the link right there where it says link. In San Diego in October 31st, 2012, DHS ran a zombie preparedness drill. And of all things, the drill centered around shooting crazed zombies. I was told that the new weaponized strain temporarily turns people into people who act like they are on PCP. The drill was participated in by Navy Special Forces and the Marines. The drill was later repeated in Idaho by the same entities. And let's not forget that the homeless are being collected across the country and forcibly detained in makeshift shelters. I would submit that this is another dry run. Conclusion. What does it all mean? The trend curve of information is pointing to the fact that Ebola is spreading, but that the greater threat to the most people will not come from the Ebola, but for the treatment of Ebola. Monsanto needs to be watched very carefully. Because my DEA source states that vaccine will be on the market by year's end. Beware. Oh my. Monsanto at it again. Did you know? And all the credit goes to Dave Hodges of The Common Sense Show. Please post your comments below. Thank you for watching the video. And please stay safe. Pink out.